Hey guys, Ariel over here at Fun In. Today I'm taking you along while I make some lentil soup. I figured everyone's probably, if you've watched any of my other cooking videos, seen me chop up onions and garlic. Plenty enough to have your fill of that. So I've already got one large onion, one that was about that big, and a full head of garlic. A few people have asked me, do I really mean that? Yes, if you don't like that much garlic, you can certainly do less, but I love garlic, and so I do use a lot. So I've got that in here right now. So I'm going to saute these together here. You could use any other kind of good cooking fat that you like, but coconut oil is one of my favorites, and I go through a good bit of it. Just got that on low heat, melt the oil and kind of let that simmer. Smells good already. And this is a soup that I think the original recipe may have been. It's actually really warm in here. It was snow flurrying earlier, and in between that the sun's been coming out. And wood stove's kind of burned out, but it's got plenty toasty inside. Anyway, this, I think the original recipe might have been vegetarian. Growing up, I usually made it with a little bit of sausage. You can easily do it either way, depending on what your preferences are or what you've got in your house at the moment. I'll admit I do prefer the flavor with a little bit of some sausage in there, but I would enjoy it without as well. And lentils are relatively inexpensive, as are potatoes, and relatively nutritious. So, these potatoes needed used. They got a few spots in them there. So I'm going to dice these up just into, you know, whatever kind of bite-sized chunks you like to have in a soup. Baked bread yesterday, so I'm going to have this soup for dinner with some homemade bread and maybe some sprouts on top, since I got plenty of those growing over there. Keep them growing all the time. As that's doing that, and I've got my bone broth here. Seen other videos, you probably know I make my own. Super easy, basically just cover bones with water. Preferably include all the joints and cartilage and all that kind of tissue possible. And simmer for somewhere between 5 or 6 hours to 4 or 5 days, which is what I usually do, until the bones all go to being mushy. And then Grizzly eats them. She's napping on the floor behind the camera right now. And the onions frying there are making my eyes water. So I'm going to put my broth in there. Probably with a little more water, because I generally make the broth pretty strong. Do generally have my broth pretty concentrated. Go. If you, again, have seen some of my other videos, this is pretty much how I start almost every kind of soup I make, with garlic, onions, and broth. And then from there you can add whatever other flavors you like. This time I'm going to do lentils. You could probably do a few more than that. I actually realized that I need to, even though they do swell up and expand, I need to get some more, because that is my the end of my jar. I didn't realize it was quite that low. Also going to do a few potatoes. You could skip those if you want. It would totally be taste fine as well, but I kind of like the flavor and texture of some potato chunks in there. And then seasonings. You could spice this up with more stuff if you want to. I'm just doing salt. This is a Redmond real salt, so that's why you got the dirty minerally flakes in there, because it's not processed. And a little pepper. You could do a lot more pepper if you like pepper. I'm not a big black pepper fan, so I usually go kind of light on that. And then I really like the flavor of cumin with with this, so I'm gonna do a good bit of that in there. And that's usually the seasonings I go with for this. This has got a little bit of a maybe Mediterranean-ish flavor to it. I don't know where the recipe originally came from. It was something my parents made when I was growing up, and I really like. My one little brother's actually planning to come visit me, and I mentioned I was making this. He said, "Oh, you got to make it again when I'm there. I haven't had that since I, lived at home with our parents." So I'll probably be making another batch in a few weeks. Other than that, this is really quick and simple to make. I'm going to let all that simmer till the potatoes are soft, the lentils are soft. That's going to take some time, but basically I've got everything in there unless I decide it needs a little more water in there, which I might do as the lentils start to soak up that moisture. But I'm going to let my broth ice blocks finish melting first. And then at the end, when it's all done cooking, when all those flavors are kind of blended, everything's soft, the lentils are soft, the potatoes are soft, I'm going to put in usually some kind of green. You could do spinach, you could do fresh spinach. If you're doing fresh green leaves of any kind, if you've never cooked them before, you're going to want like a monster pile, because the minute they hit the heat, they shrink down to almost nothing. I've done spinach, I've liked that. I've done kale and chard, I've liked that. Right at the moment, I've got actually some frozen beet leaves. I tend to grow so many greens here because they're one of the things that grows really well in my climate in the summer, that I have more than I can eat. So I do freeze some. This was just, I chopped them up. They were totally raw. Chopped them up and vacuum sealed them, and they've been in the freezer. So that's actually going, because of the red beet stem in there, that's going to give our soup a little bit of a funny pink color. But you get a lot of great nutrition from that. But they cook super quick, even though this block's still a little bit frozen. I'm only going to put that in like 5 minutes before I'm ready to serve this. So that is everything for, and then the one other thing is some lemon or lime juice. Kind of gives it a nice bright flavor. I often do lemon, but I've got some limes here to use up because they were on the discount pile and they're obviously needing used. So I'm going to juice them into there as well. You could also just use a bottle of lemon juice, which I keep around because I don't always have the fresh ones. But again, I'm going to add that kind of right at the end and not cook the limes into it for this whole the whole time that stuff needs to cook. These really are getting over the hill. The peels. It's one of the things I learned when you live in such a dry climate. When fruit starts to get older, instead of getting mushy and rotten that way, it's just basically starts to dehydrate and kind of shrivels up. So this will be a good way to use the rest of these up here. They're still plenty juicy inside. The peel's just getting really, really hard. And you could, of course, add, like any other soup, you could add other flavors to this if you want. But just the potatoes and lentils and onions and garlic and broth with some greens to finish it is a pretty good combo. I really enjoy this. Oh, and then like I said, totally optional whether you want to make this vegetarian or not. If not, you can put lots of different things in here. I'm going to do some sausage. I don't generally eat much pork here, so this is a beef sausage. I could make elk sausage. I've just never gotten around to doing that. Or I could just do, ground elk or something in here, but just for some variety, because I eat elk almost all the time, I'm using a couple of these pre-made sausages. I just really like the flavor, though I realize they're probably not the absolute healthiest option in the world. So I'm just gonna cut these into kind of bite-sized pieces as well and toss them in there. I had a few sunny days. If you notice, I probably have a little bit of flaking on my face. It's still winter. Like I said, it was snowing a little bit earlier today, but we had a couple of days where the sun was out and it almost got up to 40, and you know, you could go running in a t-shirt, and I was just enjoying soaking up the sun. And as you probably have noticed, I've got a bit of a fair complexion, and I did it the one day and was a little bit concerned about sunburn. If you've never lived somewhere very snowy, you do sunburn often faster in the winter because you not only have the sunlight coming down on your face, but reflecting up off of the snow, so you can burn like the inside of your nostrils and under your chin and things like that. Anyway, I got, the first day I didn't seem to have any noticeable effect, and so the next day I wasn't too worried about it, and then I got just a little bit burnt, but no big deal. So there's my sausage. Just gonna toss this in here too so those flavors can simmer together. Right now it's kind of hard to see the lentils when you stir this because they're kind of heavy and dense and they all sink to the bottom. They'll start to come up a little bit more as they cook and absorb the moisture. So I'm going to check out for now and come back and show you when I'm ready to dump the rest of that in here once this is all soft. Probably going to simmer for at least a half hour or 45 minutes, something like that. Now you can see there's a potato chunk. It's pretty soft. It could be a little mushier, but it's obviously soft, and I can see already the lentils are easy to mush, so that stuff is all good to go. This is a pretty brothy soup. I really like broth. You could make it a little thicker if you wanted, put in more lentils or less liquid. And so I'm going to toss in my greens. This is actually going to be kind of like my pinks because of the beet color, like I mentioned. But really any kind of green leaf would do, or you could leave it out entirely, but I like the nutrition and the flavor. So, depending on if you use a greener green like a spinach or a kale, something like that, the soup's going to have kind of a more goldeny brown color. Like I said, this is going to turn it a little more pinkish. That was still a little bit icy in the middle of that lump, but it's going to melt here in the hot liquid in just a second. It smells delicious. I'm looking forward to this. And I'm going to put in my lime juice. There we go. Now basically as soon as the ice finishes melting out of the greens there, that would be good to go. And like I said, you could certainly do fresh greens. Probably, if you didn't grow or preserve your own, the quickest thing to do would be just buy a bag of frozen chopped spinach and toss that in. Which overall just makes this a really quick, easy, and inexpensive meal. There you go. I'm going to have it with, like I said, homemade bread and some sprouts. Top tray done. If you haven't seen my sprouting video, next one they're just starting to get little green tips on them, and there's a tray under there that the seeds just got started. So I just keep that rotating through all the time because I eat a lot of sprouts. The minute I empty one tray, I start more seeds. That goes all winter long for me. So there you go. Give it a try. If you've never liked lentils, this definitely has a bit of a lentil-y flavor, but with the greens and the other veggies, and especially if you put some sausage in there, I think it would still be worth trying even if you didn't think you liked lentils. So give it a shot. Thanks for watching, folks. If you're interested in more info on my off-grid tiny house life, check out some of my other videos here. And if you like what you're seeing, Click the little picture of my house to subscribe and then hit the little bell so YouTube actually notifies you every time there's a new video available. See y'all next time.